Hello and welcome back. I'm Xiaoling and this is my review of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. So another year, another Call of Duty game, this time in the form of Modern Warfare 2 2022, which is not to be confused with Modern Warfare 2 or the Modern Warfare 2 remake. Perhaps they ran out of ideas for names. I enjoy first-person shooters, but have always tended towards more tactical games like the original Rainbow Six games, the older Battlefield games, and more recently Siege and Insurgency Sandstorm. And while I played some of the older Call of Duty titles, including the original Modern Warfare 1 and 2, my only other experience with the more recent ones was Black Ops 4, which released in 2018, I believe, which was okay, but it didn't keep my interest for very long. Battlefield seems to have run itself into the ground, and many changes in Siege have put me off the game, at least for now. So I've been on a journey to find a new first-person shooter to get into. So I decided to set my sights on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And after finishing the campaign and playing around 240 plus hours in the multiplayer, here are my thoughts. The campaigns in the COD games have never been their primary focus, but every iteration has a campaign, and for the most part they are almost always entertaining for their short duration. The story this time revolves around finding some missiles that have gone missing, and you're dealing with narcos and some bad folks from Iran, and a few other twists and turns which I won't spoil here. There are a fair amount of cutscenes this time around, and with good voice acting as well. And the experience kept my interest all the way through, save for a few sections which I'll talk about a little bit later. The entire experience lasted around 8 to 10 hours, but this is going to depend, of course, on the difficulty you choose to play on. I played on Hardened for my first playthrough and started a realistic difficulty playthrough as well. All in all, it's kind of the campaign you'd expect in a Modern Warfare game, a AAA summer blockbuster experience with great set pieces, lots of action, and a variety of locations and mission types that keeps things interesting. Night missions, stealth missions, a sniper mission, and one where you'll be controlling a plane from above to provide air support, which is probably one of my favorite missions in the game. And while most of these were fine, there were two sections that stood out as not being so positive for me. The first section, where you lose all your weapons and need to scavenge parts to craft traps and items to open doors. Now on paper it seemed like a great idea. Unfortunately, it felt entirely out of place in relation to the rest of the campaign and Modern Warfare 2 as a whole. I figured those mechanics were only present as an introduction to what we may find in the DMZ mode, but after playing that, it doesn't seem to be the case. There is no crafting in DMZ or Warzone 2 for that matter, so it seems even more odd. Perhaps these mechanics are something they plan on adding to DMZ in the future, maybe, I don't know. In addition to this, the stage also dragged on for a little bit too long for its own good. Another level has you chasing a convoy along what seems to be an endless road, and I use the word endless because that's exactly how it feels. You jump onto car A, use it until it's too damaged, then jump onto car B, and do the same thing, slowly make your way towards the front of the convoy. The same gameplay loop is repeated ad infinitum until the end. So while it's entertaining for a short while, it quickly gets tiresome. This stage, I think, at even a quarter of the length would have sufficed. Finally, there's one section where you have to fight a tank, kind of a boss battle type of thing, and it was probably the most annoying level in the campaign. Between the tank one-shotting you and the constant spawning enemies that also one-shot you while you're running around trying to avoid the tank, it was truly a test of patience. What made the entire experience worse is that the AI on Hardened mode felt like it was constantly cheating. I would be killed in split seconds from enemies I couldn't see, and as a result some areas would take several attempts until I knew exactly where these enemies would spawn or where they would come from. No matter how fast I was able to aim or how accurate I was with my aiming, I would almost always instantly die. And look, I may not be a god tier FPS player, but I would consider myself at least competent. To compound this, they also introduced armored enemies that would kill you in one shot as well, but now they were bullet sponges, so as a result, required you to focus fire on the head, break the helmet, and then kill them, during which they would often also just one-shot you. This AI is certainly not rewarding or enjoyable to play against, because you don't lose due to being outsmarted or outplayed, but because it cheats and creates unfair situations. But look, overall though, I did enjoy the campaign, and while the last mission was kind of disappointing, the overall experience was fun, a nice inclusion, but certainly not a reason to buy the game, which I suppose should come as no surprise to anyone. Multiplayer, the main portion of any Call of Duty game. There is a return of some of the familiar 6 vs 6 modes, with more coming in the future: Domination, Hardpoint, Team Deathmatch, Kill Confirm, Knockout, Prisoner, and HQ. And then there are also 2 larger scale modes: Invasion, which is a 20 vs 20 players with lots of bots, and Ground War, which is 32 vs 32 players with vehicles and point capture. The gunplay is what you'd expect from a Call of Duty game. It feels great, in my opinion. It's responsive, it's impactful, and it's certainly in the top tier of shooting games in this regard. This, again, should really be no surprise, since they've been refining this formula for decades at this point. There are a few changes in this year's edition of the game, however. Movement is slightly slower, slide cancelling is not doable, thankfully, and bunny hopping around corners is less viable, but still occurs. The time to kill is actually quite fast this time around as well. Although the game favors pre-aim in some situations, run and gun is still pretty much the name of the game in most situations, albeit with some adjustments to these changes. You can still slide, dolphin dive, and even mount your weapon on objects and corners to stabilize your aim even more. I do like these changes, since I'm coming from playing slower and more tactical shooters like Siege, as I said earlier. But let me be clear though, Modern Warfare 2 is by no means a tactical shooter. It's still very much a Call of Duty game and is still fast-paced. It's just slightly slower than the previous iterations in the series. The 6v6 modes take place on small to very small maps. You'll die fast, respawn, and continue with the ability to choose your loadout each time. All the modes have their own twist. For example, Domination is your standard capture and hold 3 points, whereas Hardpoint has you capturing a single point that moves around the map. Kill Confirmed has you killing the enemy team and collecting dog tags to get points, or to collect your own teammates' dog tags to deny points to the opposing team. There are a few modes where respawns are disabled in full or in part. HQ, which has you capturing a point, after which the capturing team's respawns are disabled until the point is recaptured by the enemy. Search and Destroy, where you are tasked with defending 2 bomb sites or planting the bomb, and if you die, you're out until the next round. In Prisoner Rescue, you can either defend 2 prisoners or you have to rescue one. If a prisoner is rescued, the defending team loses. And then there's Knockout, much like Team Deathmatch, except if you're down, you'll need to be revived. In both Prisoner Rescue and Knockout, you can be revived, but if your entire team is down, your team will lose. Also, as of Season 1, Hardcore mode made a return, which wasn't there at launch, but it's now called Tier 1. So the time to kill is significantly faster, and the HUD is reduced, and there's no minimap, and there's friendly fire as well. There are certainly less people playing this mode, as I found queuing for it took a lot longer than the normal modes. It's not bad, I suppose, but I didn't find it quite as enjoyable as the normal modes, despite me enjoying a more tactical style shooter. I'll need to probably play a little bit more of it when I get the chance. Skill-based matchmaking is also present here, in addition to crossplay. PC players will be playing alongside and against console players using gamepads that have quite a strong aim assist, from what I can tell. The option to disable crossplay is not available on PC or Xbox, but apparently is available on PlayStation. These are both somewhat contentious issues, and a discussion I'm not going to get into in this review. However, I do think that skill-based matchmaking should be in ranked mode only, which makes far more sense. And at least having the option to disable crossplay should PC players desire not to be put up against aim-assisted players would be a nice addition, and I do hope that they will add that in the future. Ground War and Invasion are the 2 larger modes in the game, as I mentioned earlier. Invasion is a 20 vs 20 with tons of bots thrown in. Each team is essentially making their way toward the enemy side. As one team draws ahead of the other, the losing team spawns are slowly moved backward. In addition, as the match progresses, armored bots are dropped in along with vehicles as well. The mode is fun, but serves more as a way to level up weapons, as I found it became less interesting after a few hours. Ground War is a 32 vs 32 match with no bots, only players. There are a number of points to capture around the map, and the team that holds the most points for the longest wins. This mode is probably the closest equivalent to the traditional Battlefield games, albeit on slightly smaller maps. Both of these modes have vehicles as well, as I alluded to before. Finally, there is a Spec Ops mode, which has 3 co-op missions for 2 players to do. This is probably the weakest aspect of the multiplayer in the game. These missions are incredibly easy, like really easy, with no way to increase the difficulty. You get 3 stars for each, depending on how fast you complete each one, and these stars can be used to purchase some cosmetics and emblems and stuff like that. But other than that, I really don't see much replayability here once you have completed these. There are a fair assortment of weapons in the game: assault rifles, marksman rifles, shotguns, submachine guns, sniper rifles, pistols, even a shield and a knife, with 2 more added in Season 1, a total of 50 plus, or a little bit more than 50, something like that, all of which can be upgraded to unlock new attachments and other weapons. In other words, you'll need to level one weapon to unlock a completely different weapon, which you'll need to level to unlock an attachment that you want to use on your weapon of choice. While I don't inherently have an issue with the system, it feels very convoluted and unintuitive, especially at first. As a result, you'll end up having to use weapons you probably don't want to use to unlock weapons you do want to use for hours, and this may annoy some people. A pro of this, though, is that it did force me to use weapons I would not ordinarily use in these types of games, which I actually ended up enjoying for the most part. While not all weapons are S tier, most are viable if set up correctly, with the exception of a few which I just didn't connect with no matter how much I set them up. The gunsmith makes a return as well and allows you to fully customize your leveled up weapons and tune their attachments once you hit max level, that is, which was a nice touch. So in addition to customizing the performance of the weapon to your liking via the attachments themselves, you can further tune each of these attachments to your playstyle so you can get the weapon exactly how you like it. Loadouts are back as well. You can set up 10 different loadouts with different primary, secondary weapons, tactical, non-lethal ordnances like stuns, grenades, stims, flashbangs, etc. And lethal ordnance like semtex, frag grenades, C4, perks, of which you can choose 4, 2 base perks, 1 advanced perk and 1 ultimate. These unlock as the match progresses. And your field upgrade, munitions box, dead silence, trophy system and such. These recharge over time and can be used again. As great as all this customization is, I do wish there was a way to save a preset for each weapon rather than having to redo it for each individual loadout template. Loadouts can also not be exported to other modes like Warzone and DMZ, so you're constantly forced to recustomize and retune your favorite guns in each of these modes. It gets old fast and is made worse by having to interact with the awful UI that is currently present in the game. In addition to customization of attachments, skins challenges are back. Each weapon has 4 base skins that require you to complete specific challenges in order to unlock them. Once these are done, you unlock the mastery skin challenges, starting with gold and platinum, polyatomic, and finally Orion. For example, in order to get the polyatomic skin for a weapon, you'll need to have unlocked all the platinum skins for every weapon in the game. Yeah, so that's quite a feat. That's going to require quite a significant amount of time. Guns can also have charms attached, large decals and smaller stickers which are unlocked by the battle pass and various other challenges. As far as character customization goes, there are a decent number of operators to choose from, some of which already have skin variations, with more to come in the future, no doubt. And finally, you can of course customize your emblems, your calling cards. There are a ton of calling cards that can be unlocked by various challenges in the game, but I've not managed to unlock or find very many emblems for some reason. While Warzone and DMZ are not part of the base game, since they are part of the Modern Warfare 2 package, I will include some brief impressions of them in this review. Not much needs to be said about Warzone 2, I suppose. It's a battle royale that starts with 150 players and ends with 1 player or team standing as the circle closes. Solos, duos, trios, quad modes are available, and Trio Unhinged, which actually allows you to recruit another full squad into your team, thus becoming a 6-man squad. That's interesting, I suppose. The Gulag is back, except this time it's 2 versus 2 with a random most of the time and a jailer that appears after a while where you can choose to team up against him or not. The new inventory system is passable, I suppose, but it needs some work, and picking up items on the ground has its own issues, which I'll talk about in the issues section. The DMZ mode is quite interesting. You drop into the map with 2 other team members, or randoms, or solo if you want, I suppose, and are tasked with completing 3 missions you take from the various factions at the start of the game. There are 3 of these. The map is the same as the Warzone map, Al Mazrah, but is filled with enemy AI and a number of other player teams, 66 in total, I believe, also trying to complete missions. The idea is to drop in, do missions, get loot or some other special objective, and then exfiltrate alive. If you make it, you get to keep the weapons you've taken out and some of the gear. The rest is transformed in XP. If you die, you basically lose everything. You do have 1 insured weapon slot at the start, which you choose and customize like you would any weapon in any loadout, along with your tactical, lethal, and field upgrade. 2 more insured slots can also be unlocked, but require leveling up the factions by doing various faction missions. If you die with your insured weapon, the slot goes on cooldown for 2 real-time hours, and if you plan on going back, you'll need to take one of your contraband guns you found in your next run. Now, contraband weapons can't be customized at all, and you use them as you find them with whatever attachments or lack of attachment that they had. Bringing back money reduces the cooldown on insured slots. Getting into engagements with bot does cause reinforcements to be called in and will eventually turn into a battle of attrition. DMZ mode is still in beta though, and I think it certainly has a great deal of potential. I like what there is so far, but I think it needs to be fleshed out more, not just regarding the bugs that are present in the game, but with the gameplay and the AI as well. The AI is completely brain dead, and the armored AI will laser you and also bullet sponges like they are in the campaign, which is really not a great design. As it stands at the moment, once all the faction missions are completed, I'm not sure if there will be much incentive to keep playing it. I'm sure they will add more missions and other seasonal events in, but I think that there needs to be some kind of persistent progression outside of just bringing back weapons and equipment each mission if you need them. For example, backpack, plate, vest, kill streaks, gas mask, and self-revive. I mean, that's all of them. There is no stash. It doesn't save spare items you find or cash that you find. So you can't really be a hoarder, which is partially what is enjoyable in something like Tarkov, building up your stash at your home base. There are no vendors at base to buy or sell things to. You can't even find attachments in the game world that allow you to customize your contraband weapons. And if your contraband weapon for storage is full, you can destroy them, but you can't remove the attachments and put them on another similar gun that doesn't have that specific attachment. And currently everything aside from guns and non-duplicate equipment is just sold off for XP when you complete the mission. So once you reach max level, even this is going to become pointless. There is a battle pass as well, because every game needs one of those apparently. The battle pass costs around €10, I believe, and has 100 tiers. And they've chosen to lay it out slightly differently in this game, but at least it's still a little more interesting than standard one-lined battle passes. There are different regions that you're going to have to click through and get all the stuff. But if you do play through it, you'll eventually get everything anyway. Regardless though, it offers XP tokens, several weapon blueprints, which are weapons that are pre-modded and come with a skin, some operator and vehicle skins, emblems, calling cards, and also offers 2 entirely new weapons. The good news is that these weapons are also available in the freer tier of the pass. Completing the paid battle pass nets you 1,400 COD points, which is enough to buy the next battle pass, or some left over I believe. So in theory, you'll only ever have to pay for the battle pass once if you do manage to finish each season's pass. I don't even know where to start here. There are so many bugs in Modern Warfare 2. For a game that sells for €70 and that's made $3 billion in 10 days, you'd think they could at least have tested it to make sure there were no game-breaking issues, but that seems to not be the case because apparently the QA has been on extended leave. The main issue I have are the constant crashes that still persist, by the way. Every session I have at least 1 or 2, sometimes 3 crashes in my time with the game. In my time with the game so far, about 250 hours, I've had around 65 crashes and several Steam disconnect errors. Now, look, crashes are never okay, but especially in game modes like Warzone and DMZ where you lose all your stuff if it happens, it really hinders gameplay. You can't rejoin a DMZ session if you crash out of it either. Last night I had 3 DMZ runs in a row crash after I'd geared up and was heading to extract. The same has happened with Warzone. So for this reason, I'm honestly a little hesitant to play Warzone, and even perhaps DMZ until these issues are fixed, because otherwise I feel like the game is just wasting my time. The crashes, of course, are the worst issue, but they are not the only issue that are present in the game. Challenges and daily challenges occasionally don't track, server lag issues, audio cutting out, or audio that is outright missing in some instances, graphical issues, and a plethora of UI bugs to name a few. There are others, rest assured, but I don't have time to go into all of it here, otherwise this is going to turn into a video essay. Some players have also been complaining about performance issues on high-end machines. The UI in this game is just horrendous, truly garbage tier. Aside from being buggy, it's also incredibly cumbersome and unintuitive. It feels like it was designed for a tablet. And rumor has it that it was designed by a designer from Hulu because someone at either Activision or Infinity Ward thought that was a great idea. It seriously needs a complete rework. I'm not trying to watch movies on my tablet, I'm trying to play a game. I understand in big projects some issues may slip past QA as someone who worked in QA myself, but with this many issues and especially the constant crashes, I'm not sure how this passed QA without being noticed. The game has been out for nearly 2 weeks now and the crashes seem more frequent. Infinity Ward even has a link to their Trello board up where you can see what they are working on and what issues they are aware of. However, I see no mention of the constant crashing, none at all. Not sure if this is something I should be concerned about. A final annoyance is the looting system. Picking up stuff on the ground has issues when you're in proximity of each other. For example, if a gun is next to an ammunition box and you want to try and refill your ammo, you'll often end up picking up the gun instead. Ground War, Invasion, DMZ, or Warzone suffer from this issue. If two guns are stacked on top of each other, you'll be unable to pick up the one underneath. These issues have gotten me killed more times than I can count. Another issue is that I'll often mount and start climbing a ladder because I ran past a little bit too close to it, and this has also gotten me killed a few times. However, despite all the issues above, I'm actually enjoying Modern Warfare 2 2022's multiplayer way more than I thought I would. In fact, it's probably the only thing I've been playing since it launched, which is quite unusual for me. The gunplay, the gameplay, and weapon customization is great, but the lack of multiplayer maps in 6 vs 6 Invasion and Ground War is going to hurt the game and become an issue if they don't add more maps sooner rather than later. Honestly, what could have been a far more positive experience for me has been muted by the number of bugs and especially the crashes that are present in the current state, which is very disappointing. Finally, the asking price is very steep for the amount of content that is on offer here, and even more if you choose to buy the Vault Edition. Not to mention that the in-game items are also exorbitantly expensive for what you get, and also purchasing the Vault Edition does not give you any COD points either. Now, Modern Warfare 2 is certainly not going to be for everyone. If you really dislike the Call of Duty formula, this game is certainly not going to change your mind. If you're on the fence, it might, like it did with me. If you enjoy fast-paced shooters, there is a lot to like here, to be sure. If it's something you're interested in and don't already own it, I would recommend waiting for a sale, especially considering the issues that are still currently present in the game. Anyway, that's been a look at Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully some of you found it helpful. As usual, if you have any questions, you can let me know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching. I've been Xiaoling. Until next time.